Welcome to part 1 of my Empire race guide. In this section we'll be covering the campaign strategy of the Empire, including starting location and expansion options. Disclaimer, this guide is based on my personal experience and opinions, and is by no means the definitive way to play the Empire. If you have a different strategy, or want to add something to mine, please leave a comment down below. Now that's out of the way, let's get into the video. The campaign gameplay of the Empire is the most similar to traditional Total War gameplay out of all the Warhammer factions. This is due to many factors, including the starting location being surrounded by factions of the same race. This means that you have a lot of options to trade, and later in the game Confederation. There are currently 11 sub-factions in the Mortal Empires campaign, all of which can be befriended, traded with, and eventually confederated. They are Averland, Hochland, Marienburg, Middenland, Nordland, Ostland, Ostermark, Stirland, Talbeckland, Wisenland, and Sundberg. Also, like traditional Total War factions, the Empire can occupy settlements as well, having the usual options of raise, sack, and loot and occupy. By default, they can also enact commandments in other provinces. They can enact the Council of Burgermeisters to increase trade income by 5%, provincial growth by 20%, Host Festag increases public order by 4%, Imperial taxation increases province tax income by 5%, Sigmarite dogma decreases the success chance of enemy heroes by 10% and reduces corruption by 1%, and finally state troop levy decreases recruitment cost by 5% and increases local recruitment capacity by 1%. Your main enemies in the game are the vampires and then eventually Norska when you expand far enough north. It took me around 100 turns to eliminate the vampire counts and von Karsteins, and it was as arduous as it was long. There are very few cheap ways to get rid of corruption in a province, so even if a settlement was taken, it would be many turns before I could leave it without risk of rebellion of, you guessed it, more undead forces. This forced me to pick which provinces to attack and make a plan to take all the settlements in them over a space of a few turns, as that meant I could use commandments and buildings to more effectively cleanse the land. With the von Karsteins and counts taken care of, then the Barrow Legion landlocked by Britona and the dwarves, you can then work on growing your settlements and by default economy. Unlike the vampires, the Empire can make piles of money from trading, as pretty much any good faction will be willing to trade with you if you butter them up enough. This means it's in your best interest to build resource buildings to increase trade income as soon as you can, and before you know it, you'll have so much money you won't know what to do with it. Once you get to this stage, you can stack your armies with elite units and take the fight to whoever's next. You have the choice of Norska in the north, or the Orcs in the south, and of course the Chaos when it eventually comes down from the north to ruin everyone's fun. No matter where you go, you probably suffer some form of attrition, as the Empire has severe intolerance to most climates that aren't their own. In temperate, savanna and desert, you'll have no problems, but in mountain, temperate island, magical forest and jungle, you'll start to struggle, and then in wasteland, chaotic wasteland, frozen and ocean, you'll have to fight to even enter the province. One thing the Empire do have an easy time with is the missions. The first mission you get is an ambush that can be easily won with just the starting army. The following missions aren't much harder, so long as you have a good number of range units, as most of the time the enemy won't be able to even touch you before they rout. The missions being so easily completed means that your lord will gain access to top tier skills and items that will make him a terror in battle. This on top of the pitiful early game war would make you think that the Empire have it easy, but you'd be wrong. They have an awful starting location in my opinion. It could just be my love for the shelter of Castle Drakenhof, but the Empire's starting province just feels so exposed. The upside of this is that you have a load of options for expansion, but the downside is there's enemies no matter what direction you move. You have the vampires to the east and south, Norska up north, and who can forget the multitude of Empire sub-factions that just love to declare war on you and each other. At times you can feel like you're getting attacked on all sides, but once you push past it and get more of the old world under your control, you have to split your focus less and less. This doesn't mean that you'll have less to worry about though. Basically anyone who isn't human, high elf or dwarf is going to come for you. If you look into the lore, it pretty much seems like the Empire are a tad racist, so it makes sense. I mean, they are called the Reichlanders. That being said, once you get rich enough, you can pretty much be friends with anyone and everyone through some well-placed bribes. Alternatively, you can use that money to raise a bunch of armies and stomp everyone who you don't like, but the choice is yours. The Empire also have access to the Empire officers. This means they can assign lords titles, which in turn give them and the faction special attributes such as minus 10% construction cost for all buildings or minus 50% hero action cost. It takes too long to read them all out, so I'll just put them on screen, but believe me, it's worth thinking about, because some of these bonuses can make a real difference in your campaign. That concludes this section of the guide on campaign strategy. The next section will cover the unit roster and how I believe each unit is best used, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to vote on the poll for the next race you want me to make a guide for, which is linked in the description. Thanks for watching this section of my Empire race guide. If you want to check out the other parts, there's a link in the card and in the description for the playlist to the series. If you enjoyed this video at any point, please consider leaving a like, as it really does help out a lot. And if you want to see more of this type of video, maybe click that subscribe button so you stay up to date. After all, it is free. For now though, I was COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I'll see you next turn.